Hey, we're live. Let me get the crowd involved, but we're now finally live. It's Hall Hoops and Happenings. This is Bobby Blackjack coming to you directly from my little studio in the basement. I was able to spend a couple of hours, past couple of days outside. It's been gorgeous out there. Love it. Of course, with me, I got Paul, just a fan. Paul, how are you today?
Hi, good to see you, Bobby.
Good to see you. And there he is, my guy, Nick.
How you doing?
What's going on there, fellas? So
bad.
I was just mentioning before we got on the air how Nick has discovered the greatness of Frank Pepe Pizza.
Yeah, I mean, I've been traveling with the band since my freshman year, so 2 years ago. I had Frank Pepe's once that freshman year trip when we still had Lauren Park Lane and Sidney Cooks. I got a margarita pizza. It was fantastic. I've gotten it every year since. It's a staple for me. That's one of my favorite things. I look forward to on that trip out in Mohegan Sun with the women's basketball team, other than the games, of course, but that pizza's phenomenal.
I grew up in New Haven.
Very nice.
Oh, did you? Okay. Oh, you know already.
Yeah, so
access to that 24/7 is nice.
Well, there's Pepe's is on the original Pepe's is on one end of Worcester Street, which is still New Haven's Little Italy. And there's a place called Sally's, which is at the other end.
That's all I haven't tried Sally's yet.
And they've been in a battle, like the two places in Philadelphia that serve cheesesteaks. Now my favorite pizza is a place in West Haven, one town over, called Mike's. But Nick, the next time you're up there, try the clam and bacon pie.
Okay.
Light. Okay,
good.
it's a different experience than anything you ever had.
Cool.
Now, Paul, I'm a huge fan of Stowe's.
Oh, really? What
Stowe's seafood. I make a trek out there like once every spring before my summer gets busy up at the resort. So when the weather breaks in May or June, I take a nice trip there. I go to Stowe's, have my little seafood. I find one of the parks around the water in West Haven over there, and just hang out and enjoy the atmosphere. On the way home, pick up a pizza, and then go home from there.
Well, one of the hardest things for me living in New Jersey was when we went down the shore, I expected what we call Savin Rock cuisine. Savin Rock was a amusement park in West Haven that was there for almost 100 years before in the 60s they finally had to tear it all down. But it's, a lobster roll to me doesn't have mayonnaise on it. It's just lobster and hot lobster and butter in a hot dog bun. You don't serve shrimp with cocktail sauce. You serve it with tartar. And clam chowder doesn't have tomato or cream in it. It is just straight up clam soup. So I can't find that down here. So I have to head home every couple of months to go to Savin Rock restaurants and get my cuisine that I can't find anywhere else. But Stowe's, there's a place called Turk's I used to work in when I was a kid. There's a place, Jimmy's, across the street, and those places have been in business for 90 years, serving hot dogs and fried clams.
I think there was a time in my life where, going back maybe 10 years ago, when I was, I would have really considered moving to West Haven. It was the condos were affordable. I don't know about now. You're by the water. It's a whole different life out there. It's even different than Jersey Shore life. It's just that area is just so much different. Yeah, plus you had the whole New Haven is like a little mini New York City with all the food and the restaurants and the college and everything and the atmosphere. So, all right, here we are. Hall Hoops and Happenings. Nick from Millburn is right at the Garden right now. I'm enjoying some wrestling. So it's the three of us right now. The Gister might be joining us. So where do we start? Let's start with the women's basketball team. Again, I don't know if you saw it or not from the press conference I had posted, but Amari Wright, you could tell her eyes were red. They were upset. They were not, not saying they were upset they lost, but, they could see it's getting close to the end. And, unlike again, I hate to say this in a bad way, unlike the men's team last year, that first game in Fordham, that first game in Walsh in the NIT, Kadari was out of it. Half that team did not want to be there. Well, deservedly so, because they got screwed out of a big dance ticket getting punched. But I think that the ladies are going to react differently if they don't make the big dance and go to the WBIT. I think they're going to go out and try to win this thing right from the get-go.
I agree. And Bobby, shout out to you for posting those press conferences at the end of the games.
Thank you.
I watched both of them. I loved them both. And then the team gave shout outs to the pep band and the spirit squads that were out there that traveled. So that was also cool to see. So thank you, Faith and Amari and Coach Tony. And I think, Coach Mazzella kind of hinted at it. We're expecting a WBIT bid at this point because we kind of come up with a quad 1 win against Creighton. We had no quad 1 wins all year. I think the team would agree that a quad 1 win was probably very important to solidify a March Madness bid. As great as the resume is, and as great as this team is and the capabilities of this team, I think it hurts that we went, and couldn't beat a ranked team or couldn't beat a quad 1 team. Tony said it in the press conference, we needed to come away with the win there. The goal from the beginning was at least to make it to the finals. Obviously, UConn's going to be tough to get past once you're in the finals, and Creighton, we saw, what UConn did against the Blue Jays. But I think this WBIT is going to be very important. I think Faith wants to fight for this team. Amari wants to fight for this team. We saw it in the post-game preference. We saw their emotions and, how they were reacting. And Faith talked about, her timing at Seton Hall and what it meant to her, and Amari being here all 5 years of her career. They're playing for a lot. And Amari is playing for her career as a college student, not just the year. Kadari Richmond knew he was transferring last year. He knew that if that NIT didn't go well, it wasn't going to keep him at Seton Hall anyway. Amari, this is all she knows. This is all she has. I think they're going to go out and they're going to fight for it. I agree. I think they're going to be a high seed. I'm looking forward to more games at Walsh. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully the fans come out and support because we need that. And the women deserve that, especially our seniors and our grad students aren't coming back next year. It's gonna be a fun run. We're assuming we get a WBIT bid. I'd be shocked if we make March Madness. I'd be pleasantly surprised if we make March Madness. But right now, I'm leaning more towards I'm expecting that WBIT call.
Paul, your thoughts?
Well, I think first of all that it's not just that there was no quad 1 win. It was in the quad 1 games. They were really not competitive. They didn't lose to UConn on a buzzer beater or get beat by Creighton in overtime. They got pounded pretty good. And I think it's very hard to make a case, as good as the team's resume has been, when you play those tournament teams and you don't pass the eye test. And we talk about UConn as being the greatest thing in the world. I really wonder if they sat in the Southeastern Conference where they would finish if they had to go play teams like Texas and South Carolina every night. As far as the WBIT is concerned, I don't see any reason why Seton Hall can't make a deep run. They're talented. They're well coached. They play well. I agree with you, Nick, that there'll be something on a mission. I don't think there's a lot of WNBA players on this team this year. So this is their next loss will be the last time they put on uniforms. And I don't think they want to do that. I think that they want to play some more. So it wouldn't surprise me if they play well. It wouldn't surprise me if there's 1,200 people in Walsh sold out for their first game. And I wish them well. I hope that they push this thing as far as they can, because certainly they've worked hard and they deserve it. And so does Coach Boz.
And I want to add to Paul what you said. Not passing the eye test for the big games against the ranked teams. Also, they didn't really pass the eye test the last 3 games or the last 2 games of the regular season and the first game of the Big East tournament. DePaul kept it close in our second to last game from Walsh, or second to last regular season game of the season. We almost lost to Xavier on the road to end the regular season, and we almost lost to Xavier again in the Big East. Those are games that we should be blowing out. Like UConn got the best of us. We should have beat DePaul by a lot more than the 7 or 8 points that we did. Xavier should not have come down to the last 30 seconds of that game and us holding our breaths. Are we going to actually walk away with the win here to end the season? So I think it was maybe a little bit of exhaustion. Maybe it was getting in the heads, or maybe it was thinking too far ahead and being like, okay, well, we're focusing on the Big East. Or maybe it was we're going into this thing that we should win and something kind of happened there. But that kind of adds to it too. Not only was it not passing the eye test against the Creightons and the UConns, but it was not passing the eye test was the end of the season. And then those games matter, and point differential matters.
I agree.
Now, I was trying to thought for a second there. I'm sorry. Now, are the SEC and the ACC, are they still playing their tournaments, the women? Are they done already? I haven't noticed. Because the reason I'm asking is like, why do we finish so damn early? Like we have a week till wait 6 days for Selection Sunday for them to even know what their fate is. I think that's kind of, I understand you don't want to compete against the men's tournament, but it's just bizarre. Also bizarre was, I was credentialed to watch the whole tournament. There's no way in heck I was going to stay till 7:00 on a Monday to watch that final game yesterday. Like, why wasn't that game like 2:00 in the afternoon? Regardless, hey, it's Monday. You're in UConn. The fans are going to show up anyway. Like I mentioned on Facebook, the fans who root for UConn women in UConn love the T-Rex against the goat in Jurassic Park. You're going to win. You're going to a game. You're not going to. They're not losing there. It's 95% of your home crowd there. So I did not understand how that game was 7:00 last night. UConn versus Creighton for the finals.
Now to answer your question, Bobby,
both finished. Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to say that they're both done. I think they try to get the women's tournaments done ahead to clear the sites and the attention for the men this week.
It's bizarre that they're going to wait for the invitations, right? Is this?
Yeah, but they really ought to have the selection show this Wednesday, right before they really get into the men's tournament, so that the women know what they're going to do.
Yeah, Monday night, Tuesday night, right? Because then you have Tuesday night, like tomorrow night, you have your tonight actually, you have the whole night to yourself. I mean, except for the mid majors and stuff,
right.
We're probably playing now. You don't have the big conferences playing yet.
That's right.
Tell you, we've been a great day. Have the announcement. You have the whole real day to yourself as far as the media for women's basketball, and let the teams prepare for it. Now they're all going to sit for a week now, and sit in their thumbs and figure out who they're going to play in a couple, next week. It's crazy.
Right, and the other thing is that the other tournaments can't really move until the NCAA bids go out. Right, and that's tough too, because the NCAA tournament, they know they have the sites, they know where they're playing, the hotel rooms are already reserved. Just a matter of getting on the airplane. The other tournaments, they're playing at the home gyms of the higher seeded teams. Nobody really knows where they're going yet. And I would imagine who's ever arranging travel, if Seton Hall isn't going to host a game, would want to know now, where are we going, and how can we set things up so that we have rooms and planes and that kind of stuff. The trouble is I think very, very difficult when you don't know where you're going, especially for the women's team. Imagine their travel budget's a little bit less as well. And Nick, the other point to you, if I was looking at the schedule, they were, the women have been putting a lot of miles on the last couple of.
Oh my God!
They were home, then they went to Xavier, then they had to come back, then they had to go up to Uncasville. There's been a lot of travel the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I think also the hardship is, other than like the logistics, but to play devil's advocate for a second, there was a segment at Mohegan Sun during timeouts where both coaches from each respective team did like a this or that. And it was, good night's rest over, good diet and, academics, things like that. And Tony Bozzella chose a good night's rest over everything, all the options that were there. And I think to an extent, like this does kind of help ease the mind of the players a little bit, because they have nothing to stress over. They don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, in a week I'm going to X, Y, and Z to play this team, and I'm facing this star player, and I'm going to probably have to guard this, and this is what I have to do. Like, to an extent, they should be sleeping relatively well. They should be able to kind of get that sleep back, get their minds right, get their bodies right, because they're not stressed out enough, because they don't know what's happening. So logistically, from a travel expense and, trying to figure out, okay, where are we going, where are we staying, things like that, obviously it's important. But I think maybe for the players, it is kind of like a
vacation.
Yeah, it's a vacation, because it's the first time that they get a week of not having to worry about what they're doing. They're just focusing on their best basketball, being their best selves, and taking care of themselves. I think that is important. And I think Tony, based on what he said and his this or that, I know the band enjoyed that the second night around, because we knew that every answer was going to be a good night's rest. But I think that is something that maybe Tony would echo as well.
And don't forget, early in the season, we flew all the way to California to play USC in Palm Springs, I think.
Yeah.
And then flew right back. That's crazy. Not even a tournament. That was just a one-off game. Just, But apparently, now that trip to California last year, or a recruiting trip to California, is how they found Jada Eads. So I guess there are benefits of doing something like that. And plus, you're getting a national exposure. You're showing future recruits or transfers that, hey, we're willing to go anywhere to play a game. We're not just going to be stuck in the East Coast. So that's a good thing as well. Again, I just want to say shout out to I met some nice alum at the alum event there Friday night before the Saturday before the first game. But as Nick can attest to, 9:30 on a Saturday. What are they thinking for a 9:30 game? My God.
Yeah, that was tough, and not a lot of fans there because no one's really there to see Seton Hall or Xavier play. There were a lot more Seton Hall fans than Xavier fans. But it's 9:30 at night in Connecticut. Like, no one's there for UConn anymore. The UConn game is well past, and it was tough. But I mean, it made our jobs as the Spirit Squads a lot easier because we had less people to yell and scream over. So we showed our support, and that was fun, and we were the main voice to support. But yeah, it was weird, Mohegan Sun's it's a nice arena, WNBA arena, and not really at all to capacity or half capacity even.
That was crazy. Even Sunday when I was there, for the first game before our game, my God, I mean that place is packed. I mean, and then even the media thronged. I've covered the Giants, and stuff like that, and the Seton Hall. I mean, the UConn women had as much, if not more, media covering them this weekend than I've seen at a Seton Hall men's game.
We used to call it the Throng when I lived in Connecticut. Every daily paper in Connecticut, the New Haven paper, the Bridgeport paper, the Hartford paper, the Waterbury paper, and the New London paper, has a beat writer dedicated to the UConn men and the UConn women. Every TV station, every radio station. So now there's been some consolidation of those newspapers. They've kind of all been bought up and they kind of publish together. But when I was a teenager, there were 25, 30 press credentials that would be issued to the to UConn basketball. Everybody there was everybody in the state had every paper in the state. And what was comical is when Calhoun got caught for cheating, it wasn't any of those 30 guys. It was Adrian Wojcicki from Yahoo Sports who broke the Calhoun scandal.
Wojnarowski?
Yes, he's the one who
broke bomb?
Yes, he was the one who broke the UConn recruiting scandal, not the 30 reporters that cover UConn every day. And let's face it, UConn goes on probation. Those people have nothing to write about.
No, Paul, you had a very unintended but great segue because Adrian Wojnarowski started at the Bergen Record right by me here in Bergen County, right? Became this huge, obviously the most famous NBA writer, one of them anyway, and of course the guy who broke all the big stories. And now he's the GM of the St. Bonaventures men's team. Okay, someone I believe Steph Curry has just been named assistant GM for Davidson College. Now, we've had this discussion before. I know Nick from Millbridge is not here, but who are we going to get? Who would you like to see as our GM of our programs? Any thoughts about that?
Go ahead, Nick. You could start.
Like, what former player can you think of, or even administrator, someone who knows Seton Hall, left and right, would you want to see come back as maybe a GM of this franchise? Why not Andre Barrett? Right, Andre Barrett worked for the NBA, the G League, stuff like that. He knows about the players, right?
It might be a cop-out, but Dan Dunn, he said he would take the position on our live show. Our first one, he's like, yeah, give me this fun, I'll take it. On a serious note, one of my favorites, and we said this in the group chat, but Ike Obiagu would be awesome. He's a talented big who knows what he was doing down below, and that's kind of era we lapped in towards the end until Gods would really start to flourish. I think Ike would be cool to have get him back involved in basketball a little bit, because I know he gave it up and he's working with Nicole over at EY. But It'd be cool to get him back into the game and get him affiliated with Seton Hall. He's had enough games already sitting, courtside. Get him back there. Have him GM. Why not?
Yeah, I always say the fan that sits behind Ike is a very unhappy fan, and he's always in the front row too. Like, no, you don't sit back a little bit, big guy. You're blocking three people's view right there. That's a good choice. Him, Michael Enze are both high academic players for us who went on to, and have jobs in like Wall Street and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a pretty good thought right there. I see Paul Stinkin up there.
Well, no, we never talk about PJ in this role. I know that, there's a lot of very strong opinions on both sides when it comes to him, but certainly he was the most successful coach that Seton Hall has seen certainly in half a century. He knows everybody in the NBA. He's been around. He's, I don't know, at his age, if he would want to take something like that on or what his personality would be like. But, when I think about Seton Hall, that's one of the first names that comes to mind. And, he's been in management roles. The question is, I think the hard part, though, was Steph Curry is the assistant general manager at Davidson. What does the assistant manager for basketball operations at Davidson College do? Like, I'm not sure I understand the job yet.
Sounds like it's more of a figure. I mean, he's not looking for salary, obviously. He's generationally rich for years, for generations now, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like he just wants to put his 2 cents in and make his alma mater great again, right? Or sustainable in this new environment we're in.
I'm sure they'd rather have him endow the NIL with 8 figures.
Yeah, I'm sure he does too. I mean, as I'm saying, somewhere out there, I keep saying this before too. Someone's got to reach out to Samuel Dallenberg, who I believe has made the most money in the NBA out of any Seton Hall graduate or player, and say, hey, big guy, we need some help. Have you been watching it? Did you watch this year at all? That's one guy you never see come back to any games. You never see him strolling past on any given Saturday or Sunday just to check out a game or hang out with his, see the school again. So it's a wonder, if maybe there's some burned bridges there or something, because you never see. That's one player you never see around.
Now, speaking of where this conversation always ends up at the NIL, did you see Danny Hurley's comments about the transfer portal?
That's crazy.
I was going to bring that up because Bobby said that was the perfect segue, Paul. I was going to say perfect segue to scouting and to breaking scouting news, and that was it. I pulled up the article on Facebook that Mike Walsh posted yesterday in the group. Yeah.
I mean, we talk about, it has been a struggle this year for us. But here's a team, 2-time defending national champions, right? With, I don't know that I agree with Danny Hurley's assessment as the greatest coach in the effing game, which I think he said this year to a referee. But you can't argue with his success. And already he said that half of his players are talking to other schools and other coaches during the season. Now they're going to be an 8 seed. I think that they're going to be a very tough out. It wouldn't surprise me if they knocked off an Alabama or an Auburn in a second round game, after they win their 8-9 game. And his players are thinking about where they're going to be next year. I don't know how you coach that way.
Yeah, it's got to be tough because he said he knows at least 50% of his roster. He said at least 50% of my roster plans on entering the portal, if not already knowing what school they're going to. That's crazy. There's got to be some sort of tampering or something there. And I think I brought this up on another show. I thought I heard last year that Kadari was talking to St. John's before he officially entered the portal. He was talking to other teams. There has to be some sort of stipulation. There has to be some sort of engaging with the other schools and the players to make sure that this isn't happening, but also who's going to enforce it. The NCAA can't enforce, making sure every school is abiding by, the portal dates and every player is abiding by the portal dates. It's tough to regulate and patrol, but at the same time, Paul, like you said, how do you coach a team where, 4 out of your 5 starters might know that we're going to X, Y, and Z next year, and it is what it is for now.
And to Bobby's point, he's made it a couple of times that he didn't think Kadari Richmond's heart was in the NIT.
Yeah.
It very well might not have been if he had a foot out the door and he was more thinking about not getting hurt for his last year at St. John's.
Because you think, Alamir Dawes was the one who saved a lot of those games for us, hitting the clutch threes or making those plays late in the game that brought us back or kept us alive or extended the lead to give us some insurance. It was Dawes. It was the guys that had the heart and hustle, and Dawes obviously didn't come back this year, grad student. He's on his way out, but other guys stepped up, and, you saw that Kadari wasn't playing like himself. Yeah.
Now, another unintended segue, because Alamir Dawes is the one guy everybody knew had a street agent sitting behind the bench at all games the past 2 years. Now, it's these street agents are the ones that are doing all this maneuvering behind the scenes. Now, what I would be pretty pissed about, and I'm pretty pissed about my own career, there are guys and gals now who are all different range of ages who are becoming quote-unquote NIL agents, which is a hell of a lot different than a real sports agent, but they're getting that title and they're making money doing this. That is crazy. If I'm a real sports agent, I'm a little pissed off that anytime Dick and Harry can become an NIL agent and represent college players trying to negotiate these deals and whatnot.
Yeah, I think the problem is that, again, college students are new to everything. And I don't mean to insult you, Nick, but I mean, I'm an old man and I've been around the block for 4 decades since I got out of school. So you start to kind of understand things work a little bit differently. There's a reason that everybody goes to Scott Boras, right? He's got a track record. There's a reason that some of those other super agents are super agents, because they get, they get great contracts. They get great money for the people that they represent. And, I always remember too, when Bernie Williams was negotiating, he brought on Scott Boras, and Scott Boras basically had him shop between Boston and Arizona and ran his costs from $65 million contract to $100 million. And then Bernie told him he wanted to be a Yankee. So Boras gave the Yankees like a $8 million discount. So he managed to get Bernie Williams to get a $92 million contract, $30 million more than what the Yankees had offered him at the beginning of the year. And Bernie was a nice guy because he took less money. He only took $92 million. Now that makes Scott Boras a magician in my mind. So when you start to say, Nick, you're going to go and I'm going to be your agent because I'm your good friend, we'll see what happens when we get into these negotiations. At some point, there will be a group of people who know how to work NIL, who know the coaches, and those are the ones that the smart players are going to go to if they want to start to negotiate. So, right now, I think that anybody can be an agent, but we'll eventually know who's good and who isn't.
Yeah, and I think that's a great analogy, and I love the Scott Boras thing because baseball's right in my wheelhouse there. Bobby, hopefully get that Yankee show going at some point. But Scott Boras again, Alex Bregman is making $40 million a year. Aaron Judge is making $40 million a year. Two completely different hitters. They bring two completely different things to their respective lineup. And I mean, Bregman went to the Red Sox, and I have a lot of feelings and thoughts about that. And $40 million a year for a guy who's going to switch to second base and not produce nearly as much offensively as Aaron Judge is gonna, I think is a crazy overpay. But you got what you got to do. And Scott Boras, like you said, Paul, he is well known. He is a shark, and he will get the job done, and he'll get you as much money as he can. And I think it's going to maybe be a couple of years before we get these established NIL agents like that. But it's bound to happen. It's inevitable. And I think, we're going to start to see it really impact. There are already teams and schools that are well advanced and well ahead of other programs like Seton Hall in terms of finances and just the luxury of going there and the surrounding area that outweigh Seton Hall already. But when you have those agents too negotiating like that, it's going to be really tough.
Now I have a topic to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about Coach Holloway. Nick has been virulently defending him from the very beginning. What I want to know, Patino said something last week that I thought was interesting. He said when he got there and when he got to St. John's, he just grabbed the best kids that he could get out of the portal that he could afford. And he got a kid from Harvard and a kid from Penn, and he got a bunch of very good offensive players that they didn't know how to guard anybody. This year he went into the portal with an idea of what he was looking for in terms of defense, in terms of how he wants the team to play. So my question is, do we think when Coach Holloway goes to the portal this year, that he's going to go in with a game plan and know what type of player he's looking for, not as opposed to just trying to grab the guys who are available? And then how much of that is he going to be able to afford? How much is Seton Hall going to be able to afford?
Now, Paul, this is the same article where, or the same posting in our group where I think it was it Hurley who said that he wants just guys who can score now because he's tired of getting just the defenders. Now we need guys who can put the ball in the hoop.
Yeah,
never mind blocking it from the hoop. Now it's like a whole new way of thinking. Now, like, hey, now we need some guys who can score because that's our problem this year. No one can score.
Yes, and the story that I read was on ESPN.com. There was an article, just a whole write up about Pitino and his second year, and what's going on in New York. But I was just thinking, does Coach Holloway have a personality in his mind? Does he know what he's looking for when he goes to the portal? Right? We all say, because we're just fans, right? We need a point guard, a big man, and a guy who can shoot threes. Okay, that makes us like the other 357 NCAA Division I programs, right? Is there something different that he's going to look for?
Somebody posted, and I just thought it was interesting. I hate to interrupt you, Paul, but Nick, are you by your computer?
Yep.
Someone just posted in the group about some player from Bloomfield College who went to Seton Hall Prep, who was like the freshman of the year in that conference, who can light up the scoreboard and like, hey, he's in a portal now. Go get this kid. I mean,
he's in Maynard.
Yes, right.
Yep.
Not a bad thought there, right? Someone right in your walk to campus practically, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that the next thing that's going to happen now? All right. So people are already rating the Ivies for their best players because they don't have scholarships. They don't have NIL money. I mean, you're supposed to go to Ivy school, graduate, and make $1 million a year eventually, right? As an Ivy grad. You know that from being by Yale, right? Up there?
Yeah. But didn't work out for me, Bobby. I got to tell you that much.
but is that the next frontier? Is that we're going to start going deep into the D2s and D3s? And if there's somebody who scored 40 points a game at William Patterson, are they now on a radar all of a sudden to be a potential microwave shooter at our level and be the person we're missing? I mean, they would said it in college football that, if you had talent, right, no matter what level you're playing on, even if you're a great JUCO player, the NFL will find you, right? And are we entering that era now in college basketball, men's or women's, where if you're at a low-level school somewhere, because that's where you started, but you're lighting up the scoreboard, they're going to find you, right? And is that the role of this new GM or GM staff that all schools need now? Is player development going beyond? Didn't Pitino say this week that he doesn't want any more high school kids? He's going all portal all the time now?
Well, no. What he said was this year, the guys he's trying to replace, he can't replace with high school kids. Okay. He said, he's trying to replace, Kadari Richmond's done with his eligibility. You can't go into you can't get a high school senior who's going to bring that kind of leadership. But to your point, yes, I think that's what a GM would need to do is find guys who other people don't know, find a certain type of player that you're looking for that might be a little bit different from what everybody else needs, that'll fit into your system, and get these guys, to come here. I've often had the opposite thought. If I'm in a mid-major, if I'm an NJIT or a Monmouth or a Wagner or any one of those schools, and I have the opportunity, I'm going to try to redshirt every one of my freshmen. Have them play a year, have them then play 2 more years, and have them have 2 more years of eligibility left after the junior year. Maybe they'll stick around a little bit longer and allow me to develop them, and knowing that they're still going to have a year or 2 of eligibility when they leave. Like if you're if you're Wagner, you're not, you're a minor league team, and you might as well start thinking about yourself as player development and keeping guys around and being successful at that level before but I'm not going to have any seniors, right? If I do my job right, there's going to be 5 Wagner kids who are playing in the Big Ten every year. So I just wonder how all this is going to shake out.
Kerry Land, great show, guys. Kerry, another alum, big Hall fan. Thanks for watching and joining in. And of course, you have any questions, about what we're talking about, there's a button there on Facebook if you're watching on Facebook, where you can ask a question and it'll pop up on the screen like Kerry's post there and the good search before. But Kerry, thanks for the support. Appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, there's just a lot of do I start going to high school games and seeing a great player and say, "Hey, Coach Holloway, I saw this kid play." Are we all now street agents now? Is that what we're coming to now? Hey, I'm gonna drive around and see some kid on a playground, jacking threes from half court, and say, "Hey, by the way, guess I'll be signing this kid up, and take him somewhere." It's crazy. It's a Wild West. It's crazy. Now, if Captain Tom is watching, I'm not sure if he is or not, or he'll watch it afterwards. I know he's usually pretty up on all these new regulations coming down to the, court systems and whatnot. So maybe for next show we'll have that. Also, I thought for a future show of ours, whether it be after the season's over, which probably is tomorrow night, we'll see. But you know how I always akin this to baseball. You know how after the baseball season's over, the papers, the Daily News or the Post will list all the players. Should he stay or should he go? I think we should have one of those types of shows. Because who knows? We have a turnstile now, and who knows, who do we want to keep and develop, or and pay, or who do we want to say, all right, I think it's time you go on to your next stop down your journey.
I think that'd be great, and I think our women's segment for that would be a quick 30 seconds, maybe not even they should all stay, and that's it. And the men would be a little more in depth, but I think the women are the depth that they have and the freshmen that we have that we didn't really get to see a whole lot of. They have increasing potential. Janiyah Blank Fitzpatrick, Jacayla Kraft. I know Coach Tony talked about them all the time, and he really gave them their flowers and their kudos anytime he could give them something good to talk about, which is anytime they took the court, he did. I think that'd be a fun take on a show. Who do we want to stay? Who do we think logistically should stay? And
it's kind of tough for the ladies though, because they are very deep.
Right.
I don't want to, also don't want to hurt anybody's feeling. I don't want to say, again, I'm just saying an example. We mentioned last show, everybody was against Gus Bus, right? And somebody even this week posted the guy belongs in the, in the MAC or something, or in the NEC. That's the kind of stuff I want to talk about. Not so much about their abilities, but maybe are they at the right level? Are they not at the right level? I mean, we took Romaro Gill, who had no stars, and turned him into a G League player. Right? So it's the formula is out there. Now, real quick, another thing I want to bring up real quick also is, at what point does somebody see or assume that Coach Shaw is frustrated and wants to get out, and we'll start throwing money at him to leave Seton Hall? Because they got better resources than we have. Now, is that a possibility this year? Who knows?
I would like to think yes, it's a possibility, but not a probability. I would like to think that Shaw stays. I think at least this year would not be the year that he would want to go out on. That's not how he wants to leave his Seton Hall legacy, at least as of right now, is to leave on a season where we're 7-22 or whatever, 7-24, right? I don't think that's how he wants to end. If anything, he wants to make a decent run, not finish bottom of the Big East, and then say, okay, maybe now's my time to move on. I think it's possible in the future. I think, this is a guy who bleeds blue, who shows his love and his support and wears his Pirates pride on his sleeve. And you got to give him kudos and credit for that. But at the same time, too, if you are trying to make a lengthy career out of coaching, maybe Seton Hall's not going to give you the best avenue for that. Or maybe that's not going to help you advance too far, especially if we continue to lose out on NIL and landing players. And we continue to be this bottom third of the Big East. it's definitely a conversation to have. I don't think it's next year. I don't think he takes anything this year and moves on, because I do think he wants to build back some sort of optimism to his name as a coach after this year. But I think it's possible down the line. But this year, I feel relatively comfortable and confident that at least for my senior year here at Seton Hall, he will be back.
So I don't see a coach who just went 7-24 getting a lot of offers to go to a bigger place. I mean, we see Coach Holloway every game, and we know what he does, and we have our opinion of him. But I mean, if you're you're the athletic director at Virginia and you're looking for a new coach, I'm not sure you're going to go and hire a guy who just went 7-24. I think that this year, frankly, has not been a great year for Coach Holloway. Last year, I watched the team get better. I watched the players get better. I watched the team take on a personality and develop, and guys find their roles. And we watched Bediaku, turn into a defensive force. We watched, Dawes finally, fulfill his promise. We've watched Adiwasu turn into a walking double-double, right? I mean, he was 10 points and 10 rebounds every night. This season, in their last game, Donnie Marshall said, this is a team that hasn't developed a personality. Well, if you haven't developed a personality on March 8th, when are you going to develop it? So, and I think that we've seen his frustration in the effort he's gotten from players, and the difficulties he had them to get them to play the game he wanted them to play. So this hasn't been a great season for him. I think that he's learned from it. I think I've heard him say, when I go recruiting, I'm going to do it differently, and I'm going to be doing things differently all year. But I don't think that I don't think that this is the kind of season that gets you a job in the Southeastern Conference. And so I think he will be back. Now he goes 20-9 and gets shut out of the big dance 2 more years because he can't get that one kid that's going to take him over the top. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, look at Willard is having a blast over in Maryland now, right? They're ranked, 14th, 15th, something like that.
Sorry, I'm not a Willard guy. I was never a Willard guy.
I mean, but
probably Kidstar's watching the wrong sports there. Devils win. I'm a Devils fan, so I'm happy about that. But all right, Giz, get that W.
Maryland is 11, by the way. Yeah,
11. Okay.
By the way, did Rutgers make it? Because I know they're on the borderline of not making the Big Ten tournament. Did they make the tournament, Rutgers? I know they were teeter-tottering where they were going to make it or not.
I have to take a look.
I got to say, the only silver lining of the season is that Rutgers is just as bad as we are with 2 5-stars, like I've said.
They play USC tomorrow at 8:30. Yeah.
What seed are they?
Rutgers 11, USC 14.
11, 14. 11?
And USC is favored 51% to win the game.
Yeah, it hasn't been Pikel's greatest year either, frankly.
No.
I mean, Steve Pikel's had better years coaching than this one, certainly.
That still hasn't resonated in my head yet. Like USC, Big Ten, USC, but USC is West Coast. Where he's what? Where they playing at? Where they playing their tournament? Big Ten. Does it say?
Let's see. They are
Chicago, maybe.
I'm trying to say. Oh, ESPN has USC winning 56.6%. I'll just, throw that out there. Venue, Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Is that even Big Ten territory?
That's
Butler territory, right?
Yeah.
All of Indiana's Big Ten territory, Bobby. You know that. But, one last thought on conference tournaments, because I despise them. And everybody loves them. And I absolutely hate conference tournaments. Nothing good happens to me in a conference tournament. If you're a mid-major, if you're in the MAC or in the Northeast Conference or the any one of those conferences, the Southland or anything, you do not play a meaningful game until your conference tournament. That you could go 27-0 and you're not going to get into the NCAA as an at-large team. So your entire regular season is meaningless. And if you do go 22-4 in your conference and then lose to the 8 seed in the second round because you're due for a loss, you're gone. You're never to be heard from again. I know that happened to Patino when he was at Iona. His second year at Iona, they had a tremendous season and he lost in his conference tournament. And that was the end of Iona. So I don't really understand why mid-majors have conference tournaments. It really doesn't do anything except make it very easy for not their best team to make the tournament. But again, that's just me. Everybody does it. So I'm very much in the majority there.
All right, so tomorrow night, about this time, right? We had late game tomorrow night, or we had the 7 o'clock game tomorrow, 7:30?
9.
No, we have the latest game.
Oh, jeez.
Or 9 or 9:30, but I think it's 9.
So it's me. This time tomorrow night, I'll be sitting there. So now I got to drive in tomorrow, because if I try to take the PATH train in, by the time all the pressures are done, and you walk out of there, walk down to the PATH station, to go back to Hoboken where I would normally park, then you're down to the one an hour PATH train that time of night, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But the best thing about tomorrow night's the late game is that I have to drive in the city around 6 o'clock tomorrow night, and by 6:30 find free parking around the Garden, because it gets free after 6 o'clock. That's the only saving grace I have.
And you got to pay the congestion toll, right? You're going.
No, President Trump stopped that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Now, another thing I want to before we get to the game tomorrow night, I'm really curious about these new Carl Banks starter jackets that they're promoting, but I mean, they're only at Macy's and the Lid store on 42nd Street. That's nowhere near the Garden per se. You're not parking there and walking 30 blocks the other way to get a jacket. I mean, I want to see these. I want to buy something, but why is it the store's closer to the Garden than those two stores? Why aren't they there? And why can't you buy them online? Another crazy thing. But if somebody has one, and you watch this even after the fact, post about it, because I want to see these jackets. That jacket looks awesome. But again, limited edition. They're gonna sell out quick, and then I don't know. So tomorrow night, fellas, we have Villanova. I think that's the one team we're gonna play that we actually have a chance. What do you guys think?
Paul, do you want to go first?
I think that it all comes down to Dixon for Villanova. We don't match up with him well defensively. Prince Alegre doesn't do a bad job on him, but he's such a good player. And I think it comes down to what kind of game he has. If he has a great game, I don't know that we can play with them. If he doesn't have a great game, I think we can hang in. The other thing is Villanova has been up and down all year long, and they're not even really on the bubble. I mean, I think that they would have to win the Big East tournament to get an NCAA bid, but they're also a more dangerous team than they've shown. So I think it would be very much a struggle against a team that has that single player that is so good. What do you think, Nick?
Just a quick question here before I didn't get to watch the last 2 or 3 games of regular season. Chauncey Jenkins, is he confirmed out pretty much tomorrow?
I haven't heard that he was going to come back. I mean, I don't think he's going to play.
What happened to him, by the way?
His knee, right? Didn't he got injured and he's been out since then. I don't know what exactly the injury is.
I heard something about him that was pretty bad. That happened personally happened to him when he first got to campus, and I'm not gonna say it on air, but so I'm wondering if that was just like who do we have? We have the other guy too, right? Zion. Who's the guy we had also?
Zion Harmon.
Yes.
Yeah, Harmon got released.
I don't know if it was something like that or if he's legit hurt. I don't know. But real quick, getting back to I haven't been on the air with you guys. Senior night was what, last week, right? Like these guys coming out, they're here for one half season. They're here with us for 4 months, and they got like this jersey, and they get in front of the crowd. I'm like, we hardly knew ye. I mean, it's you know, it's this whole NIL thing is that's supposed to be a special night for a guy like even Dylan. I mean, at least he gave us his heart and soul for 2 years. But these guys are coming out there like, hey, look at me, I got a framed jersey. You just got here 3 months ago. No one knows who you are.
And my thing too is like, yes, it's to an extent crazy. Like, obviously, want to recognize that that's crazy, but also like they don't do anything for the players who have been here. Like Amari Wright compared to Faith Masonius, for example, right? Amari Wright spent 5 years, her entire collegiate career here. Faith, and this isn't to say anything about Faith Masonius or anything, but like there's no differential in what they get. It's, oh, you got a framed jersey, whether you're here for, like Bobby said, 4 months, or whether you spent 5 years here. There's no like, thank you. There's no going the extra mile to really like show the support and the gratitude for that. Because especially with the NIL, that's not something we're going to see a lot of.
Hey, Nick, real quick. You know what? I just thought of something real quick. Get back to the women's tournament. The 6'4" girl, she could have played. She would have made a big difference in that game.
Ramani Parker, yeah, she was out. She was
sidelined. Our rebounded so bad in that game. She would have made a big difference in there.
She was sidelined the last home game as well of the regular season. Yeah. I don't know if we got an update about her at all, but she was out, and you know the limited playing time that she got. Once I saw she was out the last home game of the regular season, I wasn't holding my breath that she was available. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what was up with Ramani Parker. I don't know if we ever really got a confirmed this is what happens.
But when she played, though, she had skills.
She did. And obviously, you know, she came back towards the end of conference play, so didn't really get to adjust to a non-conference team and was kind of just thrown in the mix and said, hey, here's what you got. You go run with it, right? Like, she was put in the thick of it from the beginning, and it showed, you know, she was trying to like adjust and get used to the level of talent that she was facing. I don't know if a red shirt is possible. I don't know if
is he a grad, right?
Oh, she might be a grad. I'm saying,
you know, Dixon. Isn't Dixon 25 years old?
Yeah, he's about 20. He's 24.
Another fault of the system is that these guys are going to stay on until their 7th, 8th year eligibility because they're making $1 million a year in NIL money. They're not going to make that anywhere else.
Well, let's face it.
Crazy. Fix somebody.
If Dixon was 6'10", he'd be playing in the NBA, right? I mean, he's 6'8", and you know, I mean, he's just not big. I just don't think he's tall enough to play in the NBA at the position he's going to play at, and I don't think he's quick enough to play the 3. But you know, but you're right. I mean, he's 24 years old. He's been around for quite a while, and you know, the whole question. I wonder what he's doing academically at Villanova at age 24.
What do you get? A doctorate? I mean, wait, is that the future? Is that if you want to be a true doctor, right? That would take what? How many years at school is to be a doctor? 8, 9, 10 years?
It's 4 years of medical school. He could probably go 3 years of law school if he stayed in, and then he could become a player agent when he got his degree.
I mean, is that the future of? I mean, we're gonna find guys who want to be or ladies who want to become doctors. They're gonna spend 10 years playing because they're still in school yet. They're getting their advanced degrees, but yet, hey, I still got skills. You know, come on.
You know, Klopschwist, he changes his major 3 or 4 times. He's still working on his bachelor's at this age. Like, you know, we'll see. Yeah.
He's at frat parties in June, like, you know, on the beach. Hey, what's up, guys? Come on. No. Take it away. Yeah, so like tomorrow night, my annual trek to the Garden. I hate the Garden. Now, mind you, Nick, I don't know if you saw this. And Paul, you got a kick out of this. So I go to the arena, Mohegan Sun Arena. There's a little metal detector there, but they see I have a press pass. Go through. The other thing, go through. The one time they checked my bag. The second day on Sunday. But Saturday, I really walked through nothing. Tomorrow, the Garden, it's like, you remember Elf when they had those guys who were covering Central Park, the Central Park Rangers? They're real bad people. badasses that thought they were who they were. That's the security at the Garden.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna have to, but I hate it. I hate going to the Garden. So I'm going from night and day between Mohegan Sun, where I just walk through, to the Garden, where I'm gonna be like, open your bag up, take this out, take that out, whole big process. Oh, sorry, at the wrong door, walk around half the city, get to the other door. That's where the media walks in. Thank God. I mean, I'm not happy, but it's a one day event for me. Go, show my face, meet Dan Dunn, because we're gonna talk about our show that we're gonna do, and hopefully we get a W.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the Garden security 2 years ago asked Patrick Ewing, coach of Georgetown, for his pass. Now, one would think that Patrick Ewing would be recognized at Madison Square Garden. I mean, I think he played a game or two for the Knicks while he was in his pro career. I think he went ballistic. I think he said something to the effect of, "This is my building. What are you talking about?" But I'm pretty sure that is true. That the Garden security wanted to see Patrick Ewing's pass when he was coaching Georgetown in the Big East tournament.
I mean, the Spirit Squads go through the same thing with all the metal detectors. Like, we had all brass instruments, like we could put our instruments down to the side, we walk through, we'll get our instruments again, and then we walk through the lane without the metal detector with our instruments. It's like, okay. But that's funny. You got 29 band kids, and you got whatever, I think it's like 6 dancers and 6 cheerleaders all going through. And it's like, nowhere to be, take our time, we're not in a rush. It's all good.
So who do you guys think is going to win the Big East tournament? And even better question, who do you not want to see win the Big East tournament?
Well, I'll go while Nick thinks. I'd like to see Xavier win it. The other top 4 teams already have, or they're already going to go to the NCAA tournament. If Seton Hall can't win it, I'd like to see somebody like Xavier get an extra bid, get the conference an extra bid. It would be Xavier or Villanova, but all things being equal, I'd rather see Xavier. And I'd like to see Zach
Fremantle.
I'd like to see Zach Fremantle get to play in the NCAAs.
I have an affinity against him. Zach Fremantle. I think it was the senior night game, I guess 3 years ago for Rodin and Obiagu. I was a senior in high school still.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure Zach Fremantle fouled out of that game. It had a lot of attitude. So that was like my second or third in-person Seton Hall game. And I'm pretty sure the Pirates played Xavier on senior night, and he fouled out, or he was up in someone's face getting texts. Something ridiculous and outlandish. I'm like, I know I'm not going to like this guy. And sure enough, 3 years into my Seton Hall career, he's still like him. But I can get along with that. I like that pick there. I was going to say, like, for St. John's to win it, probably not. Surprised. I don't know if I'd hate it. I don't know if I'd love it. But I do like the idea of just trying to extend the bid for the Big East, because the women are going to get 2 bids, and that's it. It's going to be the 2 nationally ranked teams. It's going to be UConn and Creighton. The men, Big East will get a little more recognition, but not enough still. I think Big East is overlooked in most regards. So I like the Xavier pick. Not to steal your pick here, Paul, but I like that just for the betterment of the conference and the recognition. And hey, maybe, okay, 3-4 teams are making it from the men's team. Well, Seton Hall didn't make it, but let's see if that many are going to make it in the future. Maybe I can make an impact as a transfer and help better them. And maybe by some regard, somehow, some way, more bids for the Big East gets more players to come to Seton Hall and gets us more looks.
Yeah, I think the stronger the conference is, the better off it is for us.
Yeah.
Any chance for UConn, do you think?
That if they get hot, and if Seton Hall, if St. John's goes out early, that will be a UConn home game at Madison Square Garden. They'll grab all the tickets. I think, they're very talented. I don't understand how they can play as badly as they do at times, because they've got so many good players, and then all of a sudden they look like they forgot how to play basketball for 3 or 4 minutes a game. If they stay focused and they don't worry about where they're going to play next year, I think they could win it. I think Creighton could win it. I think Marquette certainly could win it. And obviously, Nick, what you said was right about St. John's. You know, they'll go in as the favorite at Madison Square Garden, and I know that Pitino has been talking about winning this tournament as a big deal. So, as opposed to, you know, if we go out early, we'll rest up because we want to do well in the NCAAs.
And that St. John's Marquette game to end the season, the regular season, was insane. And I mean, Kadar Richmond pretty much stole that ball and got them the win with the assist there at the end. That was an incredible game.
It was really that was a fun basketball game to watch.
Yeah, we miss Kadar. He puts up the first triple double there since 1994 and 1999. Right, so good for him. You know, seeing Pirates succeed, I guess, in its Kadar and St. John's, so it still kind of hurts. But you know, UConn's path, at least, you know, for the quarterfinals, they're either playing us or Villanova. So if they light a fire under themselves after that first game, assuming they move on, they are then playing Creighton, most likely, either Creighton or Georgetown or DePaul. So that could be a very competitive game if it's Creighton. And if it's not Creighton, I think UConn wins very easily. But I think it would be Creighton, UConn. And I don't know. I think, you know, Paul said it's a very talented team that they really haven't had everything necessarily come together at times, and they can play a lot better than they have. So maybe a blowout win on March 13th in the quarterfinals against us or Nova kind of gets them going and gets them excited, and maybe we see a run there. So I think there's a chance. I think their path is easier than some others, but you know, it's not out of the realm of possibility at all.
Now, Bobby, just ask a question. When you were at the women's game, did UConn have the first game of the doubleheader and Seton Hall have the second game of the doubleheader? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
And the stadium cleared out after UConn?
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, something you guys got to remember: the average age of a UConn women's basketball fan is 89 years old. So 9 o'clock, like they got to go to bed.
You're not wrong.
And plus, you're in a casino, so you know the people who aren't going to bed are going to go right over and sit down at those slot machines. So I'm not that surprised that the arena wasn't that filled for the second half of that doubleheader.
I tell you, I was all the way up in the rafters. By the way, I had the worst seats, press seats I've ever had in my short little career doing this. We're literally, you know, I'm kind of an old man myself, and it was like this far to go down to get to where my seat was, because I was on the end of the table of three. The other end had the railing, which was easier. I literally, I panicked. I'm like, this is too far down. I might fall down 3 levels down to the court. I mean, it was such a badly designed thing. So my point is, when UConn was done, right, all the media was there for UConn. They all went to the Calhoun's, 3-hour press conference after every game. And I'm sorry, Oriema's 3-hour press game. So I literally asked the guy who I met that day before, who was doing the pressers next to the coaches. Real nice guy. I forgot what his name was. He said, "Yeah, you're okay. Go sit on the floor." That's when I moved down by where Nick was for the second half, because there was no one sitting there. They all left, and when the game is over, I go do the press conference by Coach Boz and Amari and Faith, and those press people are still there writing articles. Like, what are you writing about? It's a women's college game. Go home. Your team finished 4 hours ago. Why are you still here?
And I will clarify. That place didn't empty out right away. When the Seton Hall band walked in, we were on the side of the post game with Paige Beckers, and I forget the other girl that was with Paige Beckers, but they were both getting interviewed after the game. And everyone was there, still on the Seton Hall Pep band side of the arena, waiting to get Paige's attention, to the point where some of us band members had to ask these fans to move out of our seats because we had to get ready for this game that we were about to play. Everyone was there, and Paige gave a quick little wave to acknowledge, everyone that was still hanging around. But it took until after Paige officially left the building, or at least left the court, for them to clear out. So they were still hanging around for quite a bit. It was like, okay, time to let Seton Hall and Creighton kind of shine here now and give us a shot at this 9 o'clock or the 5 o'clock game, and let us do our thing. But it was quite interesting to see. Walking in for the band, Paige Beckers was about 6 feet to my left in that chair doing that post game press conference, which I thought was pretty cool, and getting interviewed. So I got a cool picture of her up close, walking by, because it's Paige Beckers. I'm never gonna be that close to her ever again. So cool to say, like, I was within a 6 foot distance of.
By the way, one little preview. Check out the pictures that posted today of Caitlin Clark. She's jacked. She hit the gym this offseason. She is not going to take any crap from nobody this season. And there's people who say that Paige Buchers is better than Caitlin Clark. No, sorry.
Well, he's not here today.
Who is that?
Nick.
So? I'll debate about that next week.
Nick loves Paige. Absolutely loves her. And
it was crazy. And Nick saw this. Sarah Strong is only a freshman. My God.
Yeah. And
hopefully she lasts 3 years and she's out, because we can't compete with these teams. UConn, get out of there.
It's getting to a point where it's not fun for some of these stars to play for UConn and know that they're going to put up 20 plus points, or they're going to be able to shoot 60% from the field. Like Paige Beckers going in against Xavier in a regular season game. That can't be fun. I mean, obviously she's going to go ball out and put up crazy numbers, but like, there's no competition there.
Well, what I wonder is what happens when they do get in the tournament. Because, I mean, when Ariema started coaching, there would probably be on average 4 or 5 good women's teams a year. And so everybody, like, he'd become in 21 and 24-0 or 23-1. And everybody, and the other 3 teams in the Final Four would also have had similar seasons. So they hadn't played anybody until they played each other in the championship. UConn doesn't have a ton of competition. South Carolina does. And the Big Ten teams do. So I really wonder, when UConn gets into this tournament and they're down 9, like, what happens? Because it's, if South Carolina gets down 9, they've been down 9. They played other teams that are really good. I wonder for UConn, because you don't really learn anything beating Xavier by 42. Your team doesn't improve when you go out and you beat DePaul by 95-73. So it'll be very interesting.
I tell you, I posted this in our chat. I don't know if you guys saw this. I don't know if you saw this, Nick. The first night, when Creighton barely escaped Georgetown, right? They slowly came back to watch the rest of our game, and they were openly rooting for
Georgetown.
For Xavier to beat us.
Oh yes, arguably.
They were openly rooting because I guess they were scared of us a little bit for about until another 15-0 start of the game, but they were openly rooting for Xavier to win that game because I guess they were a little nervous.
The first regular season game between us two, I think all lost by 7 to Creighton. Like, that was probably one of the best games we've had against Creighton. Maybe not, because I think last year we lost to Creighton by like 7 or 8 in the Big East tournament. So we've had some close games against them, but for the most part, this team dominates us in the postseason. We've seen them now 5 years in a row in the Big East. They've eliminated us 3 years in a row, and out of the 5 years, we've been knocked out by them 4 times. We only beat them once, and it was by 1 point 4 years ago. So it's tough kind of knowing that, but I think that also, like, with the team that we had, and if there was any team to finally beat them again, it was going to be this current program and this current group of girls that we have. So they should have been scared. And, Bobby, we were talking about this a little bit before the stream started, but the Creighton fans and the band and the team, a disaster. No sportsmanlike, like no conduct, no respect to the game, to Seton Hall as a team, to the Seton Hall fans. Disaster.
Yeah, let's put it on record. I'll put it on record. I'm part of the media. I'll put it on record. You're up 35 points in the fourth quarter. Your opponent is shooting foul shots. Mind you, our starters are at this point out of the game as well. The band is still going, miss, 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 miss. Are you kidding me? And as Nick attested to as well, he saw this. Their second or third team that's in the game at this point, up 35. They're jocking threes up and giving each other high fives as they're making them.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
They had some impressive shots. For that being the second or third string, some of those ladies had some impressive shots that they pulled off. But A, don't take them, and B, don't showboat them. I said this exact thing almost verbatim probably right before we started. That game was not going to be decided by the last minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes. That game was well over. There was no need for that team to go out and pad their stats the way they did. And again, looking for the transfers, and maybe some of these girls are interested in going somewhere else, and they want to get their 5 seconds of fame and say, hey, I had 6 points in the last 3 minutes against Seton Hall, the Big East tournament. Great. If that's what you need to thrive in your career, I hope you have a short career. And I hope it's one and done after this, and that's what it is. But no, the band was not very fun. They played very well coming from another band member. Like, they sounded good from the court, right? But, we saw them afterwards, and they were just,
Aloof?
It is what it is.
Aloof?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some great people over there in that band, in that program, sure. But it was just very frustrating to see them ragging on our team. And
did you like, you're part of the band, right? Did you see the band for the UConn's band? At all?
I did not.
I mean, they're all gyrating to the music and stuff. Like, they were like, I thought they were the stars of the show.
They were out before we got into the arena Sunday night. They went out the other entrance as we were on the opposite side of them. So we didn't get to cross paths with them.
Now, what happens? Let me ask you a question. Now, first of all, if we get a chance to watch them, either Big East tournament or obviously the big dance, men's or women's. But my question to you would be, for a program like UConn, who goes to what game if they're both teams going to be, in the big dance? Like, is the band big enough they can split it up and half go here, half go there?
Our band, I think, is roughly 80 people, and we can only travel with 29 to any given tournament. So hypothetically, probably, we have one director, right? So that maybe brings some sort of, questions into it. Also, like, when we have those regular season games where men and women are both home, it's based on matchup. So, like, if the men are playing Rutgers and the women are playing whoever, Wagner, and the women are playing Wagner or whoever, and the men are playing Rutgers, and they're both home, we're going to the better matchup game, and we don't split the bands, even like when it's on campus and in Newark. So I don't know if, like, financially we would get the support to go to both tournaments and split the bands like that. UConn, completely different story. For Seton Hall, I don't think we would be able to split and do both. UConn, maybe. I don't know how that would work for other schools, but I think we would pretty much just stick to whatever team was better or projected better or the higher seed.
Now, Nick, you're a senior, right?
I'm a junior.
A junior. Okay. So you've got one more year.
Yes.
Okay. Then what happens?
For me, like, post Seton Hall?
Yes.
The career-wise?
Well, I mean, are you going to join the Washington Commanders?
The pep band for the Commanders.
Yeah, they got that. Those guys are all 78 years old. I'm sure a couple of them are ready to croak off. They'll be looking for somebody to play.
Never thought about it. Maybe it was like a side gig or something like that. Haven't taken that.
So let me ask you a grown-up question then. Yeah. Do you see music as part of your career once you get out of Seton Hall?
No.
And it's just going to be something you do for fun?
Yep. And honestly, probably once I leave Seton Hall, like, truth be told, like, the amount of times I pick up my instruments will probably be very limited. Only so much you can do with a trumpet or, a French horn or a mellophone on your own.
It's gonna be like who was that? President Clinton, the one time where he was on the campaign trail and he decided, I'll pick up my saxophone and play on MTV. He's wildly popular because of that.
Yeah. I mean, my musical days are probably limited after I graduate next year. but I love being able to play and continue that now. This is something I've been doing since 3rd and 4th grade. You know,
What's your major?
I'm a sports media major. Yeah, so I'm going for broadcasting. I'm doing like reporting stuff like that. And actually, shout out to my Staten Island Ferry Hawks. I interned with them last year, professional baseball team up in New York. Social media and marketing intern. I did broadcasting for them, play-by-play, color, and I'm going back there full time to work.
Anything you need that I can help you with, have my own sports network, Surge. Let me know.
Appreciate that.
I saw today my high school kid is going to Indiana.
Yes, congrats. That's awesome.
And I was stoked about that. The other guy, I'm hoping is going to follow and be a
we lost our man.
Uh-oh.
Well, actually, I wish you well, because
Thank you.
when I was in college, I think that would have been my dream, to go into sports media, to go into broadcasting, and I didn't do it. And I became a software engineer, and so that was fine, and I did okay. But if there's one thing I could do over again, it would be to go back and do it then. So chase your dream, and really best of luck with it.
So my other guy,
You're now.
Here I am. Hopefully my other guy will be following my steps and going to Seton Hall, so we'll see. And I think he'd be a great addition to whatever, Pirate Sports Network, stuff like that. Hey, we got a little.
So Nick is joining us.
Post here from Nick from Milburn, who's now on the train. And Nick, you can still, you want to invite, just go onto the page and click in on the train. He's on the train heading home. Miss my teammates, miss you too. Where's Gizzy? Gizzy, so you were at the Garden, and Gizzy was at the Prudential Center. While the three of us are sitting here, in our homes or our dorms, just chatting it up.
So, well, Bobby, unfortunately for me, it is a school night.
Yep, I go myself. So
I'm going to have to bid our fans farewell. It's been a blast. I don't know how many more of these we're going to do this year. But
look, in all seriousness, I think what I would like to do real quick is continue with this a few more weeks. Let's get through basketball, because we're all basketball fans, right? We can probably talk about the tournament. Hopefully the ladies make a nice deep run, and we can talk about them some more, and maybe some more visits to Walsh Gym for us, to see them play, Nick and I, and whoever wants to join us fan-wise. And, there's going to be a lot of conjecture as far as NIL and players, who's leaving, who's going on both programs. So that might keep us going for a while. And like I've always said, I'm dead set on doing a Yankee show once a week.
Yeah.
So, I think we'd kill it. We'd crush that one.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'll probably start my own show up again tomorrow on Surge Sports, Bobby Blackjack show. So I'm ready to start talking some football. Like I'm a Steelers and Giants fan. Who's our quarterback? We're both waiting for the same guy.
Yeah, you're both waiting for Rodgers.
Crazy, right?
Who would have thought?
Exactly. Well, tomorrow night I'll be in the Garden, and for my one night of the biggest tournament this year. If we win, great. Unfortunately, I do have plans the rest of the weekend, but I'll show my face tomorrow. I'll cut it up with Dan Dunn. Start getting our show ready. I'm not sure if Nick from Milburn's going tomorrow or not. I'm sure if he is, I'll check in. Go Pirates. Any final thoughts from Paul first, to my right?
Well, the only thing that I've said, and I don't know if I believe it myself, every year somebody wins their conference tournament who's not supposed to, goes to the big dance and makes it to the Sweet 16. Maybe it's us.
Maybe.
Can you imagine? Now, if that happens, Shaw's gone, right? Someone's gonna take him then.
He won't even come back from the Sweet 16. He'll just, he'll be right off to the job interviews after that.
There'll be a private plane waiting for him at the airport, wherever city he's in. You're ready to take him somewhere else. Nick, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how Nova might be the team that we can actually beat and advance against. Last year I was front row right on the court with the band. I'll be same spot there tomorrow night, cheering on the Pirates. Watching that loss to DePaul took everything out of me last year in the Big East tournament. The goaltending that got called and then got taken away, we lost by 1 point. That was tough. So if we can win tomorrow and just advance to tonight too, that'd be fantastic. I think I'm going in with leveled expectations. I'm not getting my hopes up, but I think it'd be incredible if we can squeeze another night out of the season and maybe get some upsets going here, and maybe just maybe Seton Hall is that team that goes the extra mile and wins the lottery there. So we'll see, but it'll be good. Lots of fun. Love traveling to both of these Big East
It'd be
tournaments.
nice to be the bid thief as opposed to the victim of the bid thieves for once.
Yes.
Yeah. And don't forget, leave early because that security line is awful tomorrow, and you know that already. I'll text you from where I am tomorrow. I'm not sure. The Garden is crazy when it comes to media as far as the Big East tournament because we're all over the place.
Yeah.
So we'll see where I am.
Sounds
All
good.
right, guys. On behalf of Paul and Nick below me, this is Hall Hoops and Happenings. They'll be back next week where we'll see where the women are going and preview who they'll play.
Yeah.
And who knows, we might have some transfers by then. We might have some news by then. Who knows? But we'll be back. Enjoy the Big East tournament, and we'll be back next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.